Hello, grease monkeys. It's me, Antonio D'Amico. This is Pointy Hat, and welcome to Which Lich? That's right, it's time for the extremely niche series on this channel. This series was born out of me thinking that wizards being the only ones that got a whole undead baddie to themselves was not fair, so I decided to make new liches for all classes. You know, because D&D wasn't edgy enough for me. So let's all pretend that we have never learned how to read as I pretend to decide which class I'm picking this week. No. Not yet. That's already one. Not a core class, but it will do. Let's make an Artificer Lich.
From the moment I understood the weakness of my flesh, it disgusted me.
So before I get into the monster making proper, I know what my audience wants. And that's to learn about the intricacies of copyright law when it comes to a tabletop game for nerds. No, but really, this is an important bit, so listen up. I've seen tons of comments asking me when am I gonna give a twist to Artificers, make a subclass for them, all that. And the answer to that is not soon. Maybe never, because I can't. See, the reason I can make the stuff I make here is because of the OGL. Oh god, the war flashbacks. I'm not gonna get into that, it's too soon. It's a magic document that gives you access to some D&D stuff. Keyword some. What is some exactly? Well, anything present in the SRD. Have I lost you yet, or are you enthralled by this extremely gripping copyright explanation? Okay, in terms that your and my little pea brains can understand, anything in the SRD is free game for you to do whatever with. And guess what class is not in the SRD? Yep, it's Artificers, and also Bloodhunters. That's why I can't make a subclass for the Artificer class. Now, before the people that think they understand how this works helpfully inform me that I'm wrong, let me say this real quick. Yes, there are technically ways to do this. Yes, I am aware of those ways. Yes, I know what the DM's Guild is. Yes, I know that my content on this channel is free. No, I am not currently interested in those ways, and no, you
cannot convince me that I should be.
Great! We got that out of the way. So, I can't do a whole D&D with a twist video on Artificers because I can't do a subclass for them. But you know what I can do? I can do a monster inspired by Artificers, because I won't be using any of the Artificers' copyrighted bits and pieces in the making of said monsters. WotC does not own the concept of Artificers, so let's do just that. If you're not aware of the little undead dog and pony show I run here, I've made a whole bunch of liches before. I made a bard lich, a sorcerer lich, and a druid lich. I've done so because I have a sort of list I use to make sure that something feels like a lich. A lich is an undead spellcaster that reincarnates when killed as long as their phylactery is intact. So how do we ensure that whatever we make in this godforsaken little YouTube video of ours feels like a lich? Well, we follow my tried and true recipe. So let's go over it quickly. Pointy Hat's trademark copyrighted do not steal lich recipe. 1. Deliberately choose undeath. One of the big differences between regular good old zombies and your proper Chad Lich is the fact that the Lich chooses to be a Lich. Undeath is just a thing that happens to many undead, and that's not the case for the Lich. 2. Perform a ritual. The moment you include any Lich, the question is how, followed by can I do that? A ritual, however complicated it may be, makes the answer for both of those be a clear, if extremely complicated, yes. 3. Tie your soul to a phylactery. Phylactery, or as we lovingly call it around here, soul Tupperware, is the container of a lich's soul.
A Tupperware party.
It allows a lich to be a lich. Basically, a lich cannot truly die as long as their phylactery is intact. If killed, it will just respawn next to it in however many days. Convenient. Any lich we make needs a version of this Tupperware, and we get real creative with our Tupperwares around here, so strap in. And finally, 4. Make lichdom not passive. This is the golden rule for a true pointy lich. Liches used to be able to just become liches and chill for eternity. Once the lichification, trademarked, was complete, that was it for them. They could just hole up in their towers and vibe for eons. 5e did away with that and made it so that liches had to periodically go out and collect extra souls to power up the soul Tupperware before the batteries ran out. This angered the 5.5 people that cared about this, but I argue that this is actually a really good change, because it makes the lich an active participant in the story. If the lich has no real reason to go out and, you know, do anything, it can lead to them being extremely passive, just an evil lamp sitting in a castle somewhere doing not much at all. Not particularly compelling. It also gives the lich a weakness, something that the party can use against them. Can you make a lich that is interesting without this? Yeah, sure. Do I want to? No. And those are the steps to make a lich. But in order for our Artificer Lich to succeed, we need to make it feel artificery. How do we do that? Well, let's take a look at what artificers are and see what parts of their design we gotta incorporate into our mix to make the perfect artificer lich and escape from this extended foot metaphor I've trapped myself in. But before we do that, I just have a question. What would you do if you set out to accomplish the impossible and then, after countless hours trying and trying and trying, you actually manage to succeed and accomplish what you set out to do? Well, that's exactly what happened when Dorian literally became the God King of the entire multiverse, and what he landed on as an answer for that question was to do it all again from the beginning, but go for 100% perfection this time. A perfect run of becoming the ruler of creation. That's right, Ethon Books has sponsored me to tell you about Speedrunning the Multiverse, a LitRPG. Not lit as in millennial slang, but lit as in literature. What's a LitRPG? I don't hear you ask as you watch this video in complete silence. Well, a LitRPG is a literary genre where the fact that the story takes place inside of a game, with game stats like strength, intelligence, constitution, and all of that is part of the narrative. You know, stuff like Ready Player One, or Sword Art Online, or Log Horizon for those of you with taste. JK, there's absolutely no taste involved when it comes to all weeb stuff. If that sounds intriguing, Speedrunning the Multiverse is the perfect spot to start. It literally is about the main character having become the God King of the Multiverse and then restarting to try to speedrun his ascent into godhood again, but this time perfectly. You don't get more explicitly video gamey than that. And it's specifically inspired not just by video games, but also games like D&D. So if that sounds like fun, you can check it out at the link below. Let's take a look at what artificers are actually about. Artificers are intelligence casters, which actually works great for existing liches since those are based on wizards, the only other intelligence caster. Artificers, however, are half casters, but they feel the most magical out of all half casters, and that's probably because their whole thing is creating magical objects. They are the magical mechanics of the D&D world. They are tinkerers, machinists, technicians, all of those with a magical twist to them. If you wonder who has been making all those nifty little magic items inside those chests you keep running into, it's probably an artificer. Their magic is less about like weaving the secret weave of the arcane through ancient unspoken words and more banging on a CRT TV with a glowing blue wrench until it works. And funnily enough, this kinda works for traditional liches too, since traditional liches need to make a magical object, the aforementioned Tupperware phylactery, in order to become liches. There's even an artificer subclass that is all about making potions, the alchemist, and liches also need to make a potion to turn into liches. This secret potion is just poison, but you know, it still counts as a potion. So if traditional liches do a lot of stuff that artificers do, why go through the trouble of making a whole artificer lich? Well, because traditional liches just don't feel like artificers that much. The artificer's core vibe, their class fantasy, their class identity, if you have watched my monk video, you know what that means, is the mechanical aspect of magic. Artificers are about making automated armor, making magical items that move on their own, gears and clockwork and grease-guzzling automatons. That's what people think when they think artificers, not beef jerky magic man over there. Okay, we got it. Our artificer lich needs to follow the lich recipe, but it also has to feel mechanical. It has to convey the class identity of the artificer. It needs to be about making magical constructs with magic, the mechanic as a way to channel the magical. Hear me out, Magitech. Let me present to you the Necromaton. A Necromaton is an anomaly even in lichdom, as they are completely and utterly defined by their phylactery. An artificer that turns to lichdom has an arduous task ahead of them. They must make a construct that will house their soul. The process to create these is complex, lengthy, and costly. As a general rule, artificers never settle for anything basic, and knowing that the capabilities of this construct will be their own capabilities once it houses their soul can only drive an artificer to add more and more features into that automaton. But the requirements for a construct to act as a phylactery for the lich artificer are deceptively simple. The first one is that the artificer must have made the construct themselves. It's unknown exactly how much of the process can be left to automation, but the artificer must have had a hand in the construct's make. The second one is darker. For a construct to act as a phylactery, it needs a biological component. This is called a soul anchor, and it's often one of the artificer's own organs, although bones have been known to work too. For as much as some artificers wish to rid themselves of the weakness of their flesh, they can't deny that for their souls to be able to graft themselves onto their automaton phylacteries, there needs to be a biological component for the soul to attach itself to. Once the creation of one of these automatons is completed successfully, it's referred to as a Necromaton, and so is the Artificer Lich, as they are one and the same. Once the Artificer embraces death to turn to lichdom, their soul will possess the constructed phylactery, having access to all of its features and capabilities. A Necromaton's phylactery is their own mechanical body. Necromatons understand that replacing their flesh body with one of steel is not enough. It might be harder to destroy a Necromaton housing the Artificer's soul, but it isn't impossible. Faced with this challenge, Necromatons will then create new Necromatons, more bodies to house their soul in case the one that they are currently occupying is destroyed, or in case they need the capabilities of a different body. Necromatons can do anything they want to do, as long as the Artificer can create a body that is able to do those things. In a way, the soul becomes the software that runs through the hardware of the constructed body. Like a spirit possessing a person, the Necromaton possesses their own phylacteries at will. Necromatons are known to create entire armies of automaton phylacteries. These constructs are able to move and act on their own, but they can also be possessed by the Necromaton's soul at any time. These necromatic armies of construct act as a powerful, unrelenting force against the Necromaton's enemies, but they also act as insurance, since any of the constructs can house the Necromaton's soul if the one they are currently embodying is destroyed. But like for any lich, eternal undeath is an ongoing struggle for the Necromaton. The soul anchor inside the Necromaton's mechanical body decays over time, and not just those, even steel decays, metals lose their shine, and even if iron is harder than flesh, it can still rust. Necromatons find themselves needing to create and replace their phylacteries, and there's only so much that their old flesh bodies can offer them for soul anchors, either because of the sheer number of phylacteries a Necromaton builds, or by virtue of needing to replace their body with a new one as time goes by. The Necromaton must turn to a different source of soul anchor in order to continue existing. A living source, a new raw material to use in their construction of new Necromatons. And so, the Necromaton bends metal and meat, bones and bolts to create new bodies out of the bodies of their victims in a race to stave off death itself. A lich that can build an entire army of phylacteries? I think that's pretty sweet. And I would argue it feels extremely artificery, literally living through their creations, being able to outfit their bodies with weird capabilities and powers, being made of metal, robots, those are all artificery things. And the whole irony of them still needing a biological component to actually use those bodies? I dare say these would make for pretty cool characters. Now, liches are big boy monsters, and so they should give your campaign big boy plots. And I can already think of a few that can be created by adding a Necromaton into your game. Okay, so for our first one, I don't think you need me to tell you that you can make a death metal army of necromantic automatons under the control of an undead mechanic. That's cool, but that's the baseline of the Necromaton. I want to give you something weirder. If you can't believe it, I'm going to talk about having a hard time having a kid and, you know, life ending not so well for that kid. Yes, I swear I am. This is actually me giving you a warning. Skip to here if that's upsetting. You've been warned. Okay, let's go. Mencia was the child of an extremely wealthy noble couple. She came to this world as both of her parents were quite advanced in age, but she was only their firstborn. And this wasn't for a lack of trying. She was a very wanted baby, but Mencia's parents faced every possible hurdle they could face in bringing her into the world. When Mencia was finally born, she was loved and cherished, and her parents quickly ascertained that she was nothing short of a genius. Mencia could read when she was 3, cast spells by the age of 4, much to the chagrin of the staff of the manor, and automated one of her dolls with the parts from an heirloom clock before her 6th birthday. Unfortunately, she was also found to be extremely sickly. She was frail, finding any form of physical exercise exhausting. Her lungs and heart were weak, and she was prone to illness of any form. Because of this, she was educated by a private tutor, unable to go to school, so she set up her dolls to pose as fellow classmates as her only company. As Mencia grew up, her condition grew worse, but her intellect grew greater. Her talent in engineering, combined with her natural magical prowess, made her into an extremely gifted artificer at an impossibly young age. Her parents fostered this talent in any way they could, bringing in experts in the field of artificery to mentor her. Mencia stumped them all, quickly learning everything they could teach her, and then surpassing them. Mencia believed that the key to extending her life was artificery, and that if anyone could find a way to use Magitech to save her, it was herself. Her parents only encouraged her in her research, even when it turned darker. Experts in artificery were replaced by arcane practitioners, warlocks, and then necromancers. Mencia would read engineering manuals alongside forbidden grimoires, and it was among those pages she first heard of the concept of a Necromaton. Using her own dolls as a base, she began to work on her own Necromaton. Her parents and their endless coffers always alongside her. Teams of doctors helped Mencia graft a soul anchor to her creation, and sure enough, After countless hours of research, study, drafting, and pain, Mencia awoke not in her sickly body, but in her first Necromaton. A living doll unshackled by weak flesh, with only a beating heart as a reminder of her past shell. That's a cool NPC, I think. Who doesn't love a creepy doll puppeteer themed character? Porcelain doll aesthetics, the whole shebang. You could of course go the villain route and have her take soul anchors from the peasants under her parents' control in her quest to stay alive, but you could also, you know, just make her your next PC. Take away the becoming a Necromaton and make that her goal that she's working towards, and boom, you got a PC with a pretty cool motivation. Tired of playing your run-of-the-mill wizard that wants to become a lich? How about an artificer that wants to become a lich? Except she wants to do so because she's actively dying. Want to play a living doll? Say that she has successfully turned herself into a Necromaton, but because she used her own weakened body for a soul anchor, this one is rapidly decaying. She needs to find a substitute for it, but she doesn't want to kill anyone to do so. That's a cool character quest right there. Man, someone should do a living doll race. That'd be cool. But what is a campaign without a cool weirdo selling you magic items that your players either become irrationally attached to or actively fear? How about making a Necromaton out of that? Nobody quite knows when the Clockwork Abattoir was built. There are records of it appearing near hamlets and cities that date back several centuries, although it's known to appear in the middle of nowhere too, so these records cannot be used to find a conclusive date. All that the Clockwork Abattoir requires to manifest somewhere is for someone to be extremely desperate for something it can create. It's thought that the entity that welcomes patrons to the Clockwork Abattoir, the clerk that calls itself Herstellar, is not actually autonomous, but rather part of the abattoir itself, the part that communicates with customers seeking what the abattoir can offer. The Herstellar will tell them that the Clockwork Abattoir can create anything and everything they could ever desire, if they can pay the price. The Clockwork Abattoir itself is a Necromaton, a machine inhabited by the soul of an artificer lich. After centuries of undeath, it has completely transcended personhood and turned the receptacle of its soul into a teleporting shop, and, more importantly, a factory. The Clockwork Abattoir is somehow drawn to those that desperately wish for something it can create, and it will offer whatever these prospective clients need for a price. The Clockwork Abattoir doesn't deal with money, but rather with flesh. It needs new soul anchors to upkeep its ever-growing magical body as the old ones decay and as it expands the capabilities of its host body. How badly do you need the object of your desire? Bad enough to pay an arm? A leg? Both? Literally? The Clockwork Abattoir will appear to you, and you may refuse Herstellar's offer. Most do, the first time. But once you know that a solution to all your needs and all your problems is out there, and you have the means to pay for it, how long will it take for you to beg for the Clockwork Abattoir to reappear to you again? I think that's a pretty cool encounter. To use alignment language, and you know how much I hate that, this to me is the embodiment of neutrality. I think. Pay the price and get your price, but at what cost? How far are you willing to go to get the thing you want? Imagine the dilemma this could put certain PCs in, and mixing the whole meatpacking and clockwork aesthetics? That's cool. Kinda edgy, kinda dark, kinda cool. I'm sure this can fit in many of your games, you freaks. It's just a shame that these two kind of require you to, you know, have the stat block for the Necromaton. And that doesn't exist. Even if you want to run the baseline Necromaton with the whole army of Necromaton constructs, you would need it. It wouldn't even be a stat block, but several ones, right? With different abilities depending on the body. Maybe it could be one stat block, but you can customize it. Pick different abilities depending on what body the Necromaton is currently possessing. That'd be sick. Like a pick your own automaton construct stat block? That's cool. Good luck making that. I'll be here just Working on short form content has been fun. TikTok is fun. YouTube shorts are fun too. Preparing for that first stream too. It's a lot of work. Oh, what's that? The Necromaton stat block and its final art is in the description of this very video you are currently watching? Well, who could have seen that coming? Yes, the Necromaton stat block is ready for you to use in your games for 100% Pointy Hat certified free. So go out there, grab your dad's power tools, the instruction manuals you keep in a kitchen drawer just in case, and build a necromancy robot with the scavenge parts of your toaster. And... that's it. That's another lich. Which lich? The lich with the power. What power? The power of engineering. I don't know how many Adeptus Mechanicus clips we managed to fit in here, but I'm sure there's plenty for you nerds. I hope you'll like this series as much as I do. It's clearly the weirdest one of the series we do on this channel for now, but people's reception to these have floored me every single time. I cannot believe y'all dig these so much. Y'all love the Blight, and I still get messages about the Intoner and the Hierarch, so I'll keep them coming as long as y'all show interest. If you do like these little liches, go ahead and tell a friend, a coworker, Twitter if it's still standing by the time I post this video, Reddit, stop traffic and yell at cars about it, whatever you want to do. Thank you so much to everyone that spreads the word about these and those that like and comment and subscribe. It truly does mean the world to me. I get so many comments thanking me for the goodies at the end of the videos, and I even get comments telling me about how y'all use the stuff I make in your own games, and those are my favorite. I got so many of those for the Monk video and for the Feywild video and a metric ton with the Blight Lich. I'm so glad you're all digging the content. I'm just so glad that these are actually making it to games, to real games that real people play. So thank you. Anyway, I gotta plan the next release, so I'll see you then. Be sure to read the instructions before trying to build anything. Count the screws. Don't just put them on the floor. Find a Tupperware container to put them in so you don't lose them, and then you put your soul in it. Come a lich. Okay, enough rambling. Love you all. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. See you soon. Bye. 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 Mwah.